Okay, this is lesson 3.7, Formulas and Functions. When we finish, I want you to be able to solve a formula for a specified variable. I also want you to be able to write an equation in function form. So to start, let's solve a formula for a particular variable. I want you to rewrite the formula for area in terms of L, or in terms of length. Well, what I like to do is I like to circle the variable that I'm wanting to get by itself, because I don't have any numbers that I'm working with. I'm just working with letters. So, well, who's attached to L? Well, W. How's it attached? Multiplication. How do I undo multiplication? I divide. So I'm going to divide both sides by W. So when I finish, length is equal to the area divided by the width. Now I'd like for you to pause for a moment, and I want you to solve the equation in terms of W. Okay, so when you did this one, I'm hoping that you circled your W so you could remember that that's the variable that you wanted to get by itself. Then you divided both sides by L, and then W is equal to the area. Okay, now I would like for us to take a moment, and I want us to solve this temperature formula for F. Now I know that you're going to be looking at this and you're going to go, but it's got a fraction. I don't want to have to deal with that. Now, can you distribute the fraction? Absolutely. Do we need to? No. Look how simple everything is. Outside of this parentheses, I don't have anything added or subtracted. On the other side over here, I don't have anything added or subtracted. So I've got a fraction for my coefficient. So I'm going to multiply by the reciprocal, which is 9/5. What I do to one side, I have to do to the other. So now I have 9/5 C is equal to F minus 32. Well, who's in the way of F being by itself? Oh, this minus 32. How am I going to, what's the opposite of that operation? I'm going to add 32 to both sides. So when I finish, I have 9/5 C plus 32 is equal to F. So in this case, when we talk about this in terms of function notation, we would say that F is a function of C. We'll talk about that more in a moment. Okay, now let's look at the formula for simple interest. Interest is equal to P times R times T, where I is the simple interest. P is the principal, that's the initial amount invested. R is your interest rate, and we're going to use that in decimal notation. And T is your time in years. Now I want you to find the interest rate for an investment of $1,500 that earned $54 in simple interest in 1 year. First of all, you've got to figure out what you're trying to find. What are you looking for? I'm looking for the interest rate. So I want to rewrite this formula in terms of R. So I want you to hit pause, and I want you to solve the interest rate formula in terms of R. Okay, so when you solve this guy, I want to get R by itself, so I'm going to circle R. Now, who's attached to R? P is attached. How? Multiplication. And T is attached also by multiplication. So how do I undo multiplication? Division. So I'm going to divide both sides by PT. Because remember, the order that I multiply two or more numbers does not matter. What I do to one side, I'm going to do to the other. So now I have, see, this cancels, that my interest rate is equal to the simple interest divided by the principal invested times the number of years, time in years. Now let's go ahead and find that interest rate. Okay, my initial investment was $1,500, so that's my principal. Just going to write a little note over here so I know where everything goes. Okay, 1 year is my time. My interest rate's what I'm looking for. Now, how much simple interest did I earn? I earned $54. So now I'm just going to plug this in. My rate is equal to my simple interest, which is 54, divided by my principal times the time, which is 1. Okay, now this is a problem that I will probably use a calculator for. So I'm going to say, okay, 54 divided by 1,500 is equal to, so my interest rate is equal to 0.036. But now I want to write this in percent. So my interest rate is 3.6%. Okay, now this problem with the Pathfinder, I would like for you to look at this one on your own, see what you can come up with, and bring it to class tomorrow. So tell me what formula you think we're going to use looking at this. I'm betting we're going to use something about the distance is equal to rate times time. So look at this one, see what you can come up with. Okay, now we're going to take a moment. We're going to rewrite equations in function form. A two-variable equation is written in function form if one of its variables is isolated on one side of the equation. So here we have an example of an equation written in function form. Y is my isolated variable. It is the output. And y is a function of the input. So x is my input. In this case, y is my output. My output is also known as the dependent variable. My input is also known as the independent variable. And we're going to be talking about that some more also. Okay, so this one asks me to rewrite the equation 3x plus y is equal to 4 so that y is a function of x. What that simply means is, hey, isolate y. So I'm going to rearrange this equation. I want to get y by itself. Who's in the way? 3x. So I'm going to subtract 3x from both sides. So I have y is equal to negative 3x plus 4. So in this case, y is a function of x. Now another thing you're going to notice, my output is y. My dependent variable is y. Because y depends on what we plug in for x. X would be my input and is also my independent variable. Okay, now let's take a look at another one. I want you to rewrite the equation, 3x plus y equals 4, same equation, so that x is a function of y. What does that mean? That means I want to isolate x. I want x by itself. So I want you to go ahead and hit pause, and then resume when you think you've got your answer. Okay, so when we do this one, we're trying to get x by itself. So we're going to subtract y from both sides. So now we have 3x is equal to negative y plus 4. Well, x still isn't by itself. Who's in the way? 3. So I'm going to divide both sides by 3. So now x is equal to negative y plus 4. All of that's divided by 3. Now I want you to go ahead and I want you to make a table. Okay, so you're going to have an input. Now remember, your input is going to be your y value. I'm going to plug that y value into your equation. You're going to see what your output is, or your x value. So now when we plug this in, I'm going to plug in negative 2 for y. So I know that x is equal to negative, okay, y is negative 1, so I'm negative 2. So I've got negative 2 plus 4, all divided by 3. Now what's a negative negative? It's a positive. So positive 2 plus 4 gives me 6. 6 divided by 3 gives me 2. Let's do the next one. So I know that x is equal to a negative 1 plus 4, all divided by 3. Okay, negative is a positive. Positive 1 plus 4 is 5. 5 divided by 3, I'm just going to leave that as 5 over 3. I think you're getting the picture now, so I want you to hit pause, and I want you to do the last two. Okay, so when you finish those last two, your output value for x should have been 4 over 3, and then 3 over 3, or 1 when you simplify it. And that's all we have for today.